Jeff Zrebiec covers the Ravens for The Athletic, and he joins us now. And, Jeff, thanks as always for your time. We appreciate it. So let's go backwards before we go forwards. Your reaction to Harb's getting fired?
I don't think any of us were shocked about it, just based on, how much speculation there had been over the last 5-6 weeks of the season, and the fact that none of their other decision makers had come forward to sort of push back against that speculation. But you imagine, I've covered the team for a long time. I covered John Harbaugh for 15 seasons, and you always have, you always think about it, like, how is this going to end? Like, what's going to happen? It's going to end at some point. And my surprise would be how it ended, just with a firing. I had always thought that there would be something mutual that they would agree on, and they'd kind of agree to go their separate ways, and that would be that. I didn't have it going down as it did. So that would be my surprise. But I will say, being around the team all year, it just felt like something had to give. There was just an awkwardness, and it's hard to put it, but there was just something was off all year about the team to suggest that some major changes needed to be made.
Jeff, to me, maybe the biggest takeaway is something that wasn't explicitly noted in a press release or said by Steve, but in the way that he has restructured his building post Dick Cass, and now with Harbs being gone, and you have to go through Eric and Sashi through the interview process, to even get to Steve. This, to me, is an inherently fundamental paradigm shift where no longer do you have a head coach who's been here forever and a GM who's been here forever on sort of equal terms. I mean, to me, and I really don't know how you could argue it, like, I think everything with this coach has to go on Eric DeCosta and Sashi Brown. Like, this is their guy. They're bringing 4, 3, 5 guys to Steve for him to pick the last one. But to me, football ops now has all the power, and this coach is a function of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting how Steve said, I want this to be Sashi, Eric, and Ozzy's choice. Those are the 3 guys doing the interviews, and I want this to be their coach. And then he was also asked about, I don't think people, John reporting directly to Steve all those years, and he was asked whether that will change. And he sort of said he's discussed it. He hasn't made a final decision yet. So it'll be interesting how they do it. But the unique part of it here for all those years was how John directly reported to Steve, not Eric. And Steve called John every Monday after games to discuss the games. And Steve called John directly on all this stuff. So, it'll be interesting to see who they hire. But I agree with you, and I don't think Steve's hiding from that. He made it clear he wants this guy to be their guy, and that's the way it's going to be perceived going forward.
Jeff, we were just talking prior to the break. Lamar Jackson, he's in need of a new deal, $74.5 million cap hit. We know how things went sideways last go around 3 years ago. Maybe I'm just a blind optimist, but given how pivotal of an offseason this is for the Ravens, and they are going to have a new coaching staff for the first time in 18 years, are you expecting a new deal to be done prior to the league year?
I've learned, guys, never to expect anything to go quick when it comes to, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So I don't want to say I'm expecting it, but man, they kind of put their chips on the table the other day and said, look, this is what we're going to do. And if we can't agree to the deal, then we're just going to restructure it, push it down the road with void years. And he's going to be back in the very same salary cap number as he was played at last year or something similar. So they've pretty much put their cards on the table there, which is kind of interesting because we've never seen that approach in any of their dealings with Lamar Jackson. So, you'd hope so, Tim. You'd hope that's how it works out. And both sides recognize the urgency of this, and both sides recognize the need to push forward, to come together and be in this shoulder to shoulder rather than what, has kind of transpired over the last couple months with the perception about their relationship and all the questions. They have a real opportunity now to push forward from that and kind of create a new narrative and do it together. I think that was the biggest takeaway of the press conference, of them kind of putting their cards on the table and not walking on eggshells as much in all matters related to their franchise quarterback. And this is what we're going to do. This is what we want to do. Lamar is welcome to be here for coach interviews. We want him a part of it and all that. So you'd hope this is kind of the sign of things to come, but I've been around this team long enough, and I've been here Lamar's whole career to know that, the dealings with him at times on both ends, this is not a point and finger thing, but on both ends, generally take a while and aren't something that just kind of comes together all that quickly.
Talking with Jeff Zrebiec, it's Inside Access here on The Fan. Okay, Jeff, so they've interviewed, 11 guys? They're going to interview a few more. Two-part question for you. How long do you think this takes to get to the finish line? And is there anybody that you like? So, who do you have a read yet on who you think it could be?
Yeah, I expect 24 within the next 24 hours, probably, unless, these things are so fluid. Coaches change their schedules and somebody cancels because of travel, or how these things go.
Mm-hmm.
But the plan was to interview within the next 24 hours the two Rams assistants, defensive coordinator Chris Shula and pass game coordinator Nathan
Scheelhaase.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced. And then the only two interviews that would leave would be that we know of. There's, every search has a mystery candidate, right? But the only two candidates that we know of that it's been confirmed they've put slips in on are Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator of Buffalo, and Robert Saleh from defensive coordinator for 49ers. So that would leave those two as the final interviews. And I think how the Ravens are proceeding here, they'd love to sit down Sunday night and have already interviewed all their candidates once, because the rules get tighter, guys, once you get through the divisional round. And if you haven't met with somebody already, it's almost impossible to schedule an in-person meeting. And they're not going to hire a coach without an in-person meeting. I think we all know that. So I think a lot of it, how quickly the pace will move, Ken, will depend on the results of the games this weekend and who wins and who do they like, and are those guys representing teams that are still in the playoffs. So I think in a perfect world, they'd love to have the hire late next week or by the end of next week. But that gets real tough if one of your preferred candidates is still on a team that's playing. Perfect. My candidate, the other part of that question, that's tough, Ken. And I know we've talked a little bit about this off the air. You certainly bother me enough off the air.
Yes, I do.
There's every candidate, there's stuff I like and then I'm unsure of, and I know that's kind of how this thing is, but you want to be blown away. You want a slam dunk candidate, and I haven't gotten there yet. I'm just being perfectly honest, and I'm not claiming I know these guys and know everything about them. I'm certainly not sitting in on these interviews and getting feedback immediately after them, but I know Jesse Minter pretty well. I've talked to a lot of people about Jesse Minter. They think he's ready. People in L.A. think he's ready. But again, who is his offensive coordinator? And his personality he's not the most dynamic of personalities. And is he gonna get Steve Bisciotti's confidence? Because Steve strikes me as the kind of guy that wants to feel the candidate's presence, wants to be blown away by charisma and have a guy that can control a room and have that kind of dynamic personality. And I'm not sure Minter's that guy. I pretty much know Clint Kubiak's not that guy.
No.
Yeah, and Brian Flores is the opposite, where I can't see him and his reputation for struggling at times with collaboration and communication. Those would seem to be pretty big deals to Steve Bisciotti. So, I'm kind of on the Minter train but I feel like that's because I'm biased and I know him a little bit. And I just keep saying, guys, I know all things point to maybe an experienced coach, how long Steve wants to own the team. This is not a rebuild situation. This is not a growth situation with a young coach. But I just also know that, Steve he does not think conventionally. He's not afraid to go with his gut if he's blown away with the candidate. So I would not rule out a Scheelhaase, even though he's not had this job and he's young. I would not rule out a Davis Webb, anybody you talk to around the league is blown away by him. those seem more like Steve Bisciotti hires than a lot of these other guys we're talking about. That's just me being honest.
Jeff, before we let you go, anything you want to promote? You got a podcast or something?
I don't need to do all the promoting and beating my chest, Ken. You know, I'm plenty happy just to go about my business, keep my head down until you inevitably annoy me during the day and ask me a question.
How long does that take you? Because that's about 30 seconds with me these days. How long does it take before he annoys you?
Yeah.
In general.
Oh, Jason, he starts every morning with "How are things going?"
Yes.
Like my wife.
Yes. Well, we're both Jewish. In her defense, we're both Jewish.
Good night text,
Okay.
Jeff. Good night text.
What's that?
That's just a means to an end. You know
there's
that, right? He just wants to work you over for information.
There's never a nighttime like good night.
No.
But
Okay,
there's always the how things are going or what are you up to text.
Yes.
What are you wearing? You ever get that one? What are you wearing?
Yeah.
No. Sometimes.
No, don't go there.
No.
But Ken's persistent, as you guys know, and he's a good man, but he also works my nerves a little bit.
Yes. Happy to do so, and I appreciate you, man. Jeff covers the Ravens for The Athletic. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care, guys. We'll have a fun off season to talk about. I'm sure.
Yes, sir.